Assalamu alaikum friends, and welcome to my series of Tohfatu Saniyyah. In this video I will be doing the lesson on alamatul nasb, that is the replacement of fatha by different signs. So in this lesson you will be learning about how a fatha is replaced in a normal noun. You see a physical visible fatha over the last letter, and there are cases where you cannot use a fatha. Instead of that, the fatha is invisible, muqaddara, assumed. So we will do all the examples, and there are rules on where the fatha is replaced with some other signs. So let's proceed with the slide. Alamat and Nasb. So what are the signs? Alamat is the plural of alama, that is the signs for the Nasb. So the first thing you see, that is you can see everywhere. This is for the normal noun where you can see a clear fatha on the last letter, and this fatha is actually original. It is called in Arabic asliyah. Asliyah means original. Now the next sign that you see is the alif. Where do you see this alif? Now this is the sign where fatha is replaced. Instead of fatha, now you see an alif at the end of the noun by by the suffix, and this alif tells you that this noun is in mansoob case. So where do you find this? In the asma'ul khams. Whenever you see an asma'ul khams, especially if you think about the five asma'ul khams, ab, akh. So when you see these nouns in idafa, especially when they are in idafa, they don't carry their original harakat, that is the dhamma or the fatha. So instead, when ab and akh is in idafa construction, the dhamma is replaced by waw, and in nasb case, the fatha is replaced by alif. So this is the second sign. Then comes the third one, that is the kasra. Now sometimes a nasb noun can take a kasra, but where can you see this? Where can you see the kasra instead of a fatha? That is, it is an extra sign. Inst means apart from fatha, where you can see a kasra sign in jama muannas salim. If you remember the structure of jama muannas, when you make a plural of a feminine noun, so it shows its nas and jar case by kasra and not by fatha. So you should remember this, that sometimes you see a kasra instead of a fatha, and the only case where you see this kasra is the jama muannas salim. So remember this. Now the last one is the hadfan noon. Now when the hadfan noon comes, remember always in the afalul khamsa, this deals only and only in the present tense, and afalul khamsa is found in the present tense only. So this is the last sign, hadfan noon. Whenever you see a verb which has an extra noon at the end in the present tense, so when these verbs are with a nasb tool that makes to change these present tenses, so how do these present tense change? They lose the extra noon the moment they receive a nasb tool. So we will do all the examples inshallah. Let's check the next slide. And yes, I forgot this. Now, last sign is al ya. So the ya is, where do you find this ya instead of fatha? That is in the muthanna, jama mudhakkar salim. If you remember, in the marfu case, it has a special letter waw that shows that this noun, particular plural male noun, is in marfu case. But when this plural male noun is in nasb and jar case, how do you know? It shows as nasb and jar case by the special letter ya. So you will find this in this special letter ya in muthanna and in the jama muzakkar. So there is a slight difference between the muthanna nouns and the jama muzakkar, and we will do that inshallah. So let's check the next slide now. Now here is the fatha, and where do you see it? Now let's see this. The first one you see is ism mufrad, that is normal noun that shows the nasb is by the fatha. So for example, ra'aytu al-kitaba. Now when you see this ra'aytu al-kitaba, this is the fail ra'ay. Two is the file. So after fail and file comes the maf'ulun bihi. So maf'ulun bihi is always seen by a fatha on the last letter. And since ba is a sahih letter, it can easily take a visible fatha over it. So this is a kind called ism mufrad, that is a normal noun showing nasb is by the fatha. So now let's see the next one. The next one is jama takfir. Jama takfir is the broken plural, and where do you see the example here? I have given Ra'aytu al-madarisa. Madaris is the jama takfir of madrasa, and it takes the fatha in the nasb case. So you can see the structure as fail, file, and then the maf'ulun bihi showing the nasb case by the clear fatha. Now let's see another case is fail mudare. So let's take an example of fail mudare. Now you have to pay attention on the tool of nasb. The moment a fail mudare receives a tool of nasb, it shows its mansoob case by a clear fatha. How can you see a clear fatha on the fail mudare? You check the last letter of the fail, it's a sahih letter. It's not a weak letter and it is not from the afalul khamsa, then you will see a clear fatha on the last letter since it is a sahih letter. لن يخرج الطالب من المدرسة means the student will not, since lan is the particle for future that will happen in future, so the student will not leave from the school. So this is another example of fi'l mudari. Now let's alamat an-nasb. The author of this book, Tohfatu Saniyyah, says for the nasb there are 5 signs. Khams alamat, there are 5 signs. So we discussed this before. Fath in the normal noun. Alif you see in asma'ul khams, for example, Aba Khalidin, Akha Khalidin. Now al-kasra in the jama muannas salim. Ya in the case of muthanna. For example, if you want to say babani with an alif, it shows the marfu case. If you say babaini with the ya, it shows the nasb and the jar case in muthanna. And where do you find this ya? Also in jama muzakkar salim. For example, muslimun with the waw shows the marfu case. Muslimin with the ya shows the nasb and the jar case in jama muzakkar salim. Hadf an-nun only in the afalul khamsa, and that also in fi'l mudari. Then wa aqul. Now who is saying aqul? Mahi ad-din. Who has explained this Tohfatu Saniyyah in a more simpler way. يمكنك, it is possible, أن تحكم على الكلمة بأنها منصوبة إذا وجدت في آخرها الف. Now when you find something added at the end of the noun, so what he says is, when you see something at the end of the noun in akhri alama, that is min al khams al alama, that what are the 5 signs, he is explaining the same definition by Ajurumia. So Mahiyaddin says wahida minha asliya. Asliya means the original fatha you see in the normal nouns. Arba furu' anha. And all the other, that is the alif, the kasra, the ya, and the hasf an-nun are far'iyya, means except the fatha, which is the original, all the other signs, alif, kasra, ya, and hasf an-nun are all far'iyya. So he says 4 of them are far'iyya, wahiya, alif, kasra, ya, and hasf an-nun. So this is the explanation of Mahi ad-Din. Al-fath wa mawadi'uha means the fatha and its situation. Where do you find the fatha and other signs of nasb? Now let's see first the explanation of Ajurumia. He says, قال فأما الفتح فتكون علامة للنصب. It is a sign of nasb. In three situations, where do you see these signs of nasb? That is in the ism mufrad, that is a normal noun showing clear fatha, jama taksir, broken plural, and fail mudare. In fail mudare, as discussed in my previous slide, when do you see a clear fatha on the last letter of the fail mudare? When it is a sahih letter. So this author explains, إِذَا دَخَلَ عَلَيْهِ nasib. This statement means when you put a tool of nas before the present tense. Nasib is the tool of nasb actually. وَلَمْ يَتَّصِلْ بِآخِرِهِ شَيْءٌ. That means that the fail mudare at the end you don't see anything added, just a sahih letter. Then only you will see a clear fatha as soon as the tool of nasb enters before a fail mudare. Now, this is a more simpler explanation of Mahi Addi. He says, وَأَقُولْ تَكُونُ فَتْحَ عَلَامَةً عَلَى أَنِ الْكَلِمَةِ مَنْصُوبَةً. That means the fatha is the sign of a mansoob noun in three situations where maudu awwal means the first, where do you see it is mufrad. Now maudu asani, where do you see the second situation, jama taksir, the same. And maudu thalis is the fail mudari. So allazi sabaqahu nasib. Sabaqahu means previous, I mean in it is preceded by a tool of nasb. Walam yattasil bi akhirihi, and it is not joined at the end of the verb. If you don't find any aliful usnain, waw al jama, ya mukhatiba, noon tawkid, wa noon niswa. All these noon tawkid, that is the noon thaqila, and khafifa noon niswa is the damir actually, ya mukhatiba is the damir, the extra noon, the aliful usnain, all these are the other signs of muthanna and the damirs. If it is not added with all these things at the end, you only see a clear fatha at the end of the verb. So this is the explanation of Mahayati. Now let's see in this paragraph two of the examples. First of all, you will see an example here of a simple jumla failure, one with the male noun and one with the female noun. So here laqaitu, laqaitu means to meet, aliyan, so you can see a normal visible fatha on this noun, aliyan. So this means we have our fail, we have our file, and we have mafulun bihi. So the clear maful bihi sign is the nasb sign, the fatha you can see here. And the second one is the same, but it is with the feminine noun. Qabaltu. Qabaltu means meet. Hindan. So you can see a clear fatha. Here what is happening? The Ali and Hind, they are both normal nouns and they are both singular and they are both mansuban. Mansuban means they are both maful bihi and they both show fatha. Now when you see another example here, that is the لقيت الفتى حدثت ليلى. So here it is simple jumla failure, laqai with the fail, then we have the file to the damir, and fata is the mafulun bihi. Fata with the alif makhsura. This is a weak letter and that's why it does not carry a haraka over it. In this case what happens, since fata is the mafulun bihi, how can I show that this fatha noun is in mansub case? So the rule, a grammatical rule, since alif makhsura is a weak letter, does not carry harakat, in this case it has a fatha. Yes, it does have a fatha, but we cannot write it over the weak letter. So in this case it is fatha muqaddara. So this is the second case where fatha can be considered as muqaddara. We cannot write it just because the last letter is weak letter. Now another example is haddastu. Haddastu, to talk, conversation between the two people. So this is the fail and tu is the file and Layla is mafulun bihi. Yes, and it is in mansub case. I can't write a fatha over the last letter. Why? Because this is a weak letter. So in this case, it will be fatha muqaddara. So the first example, you saw two examples here. It is fatha zahira. Why? Because it is a normal noun with a sahih letter at the end. But what is happening here? Why is it muqaddara? Just because it has a weak letter at the end. So you have to remember these two situations where a fatha can be visible and where a fatha can be muqaddara. Now we will deal with the broken plural, the jama taksir. We will see two examples of jama taksir, one with the clear fatha and the other with fatha muqaddara. So let's see. The first one is Ra'aytu hunud. This is for the feminine. Al hunud is the jama taksir of al hind, and this is jama taksir. The second one here, sahab to a rijal. Rijal is the jama taksir of rajul, and in both the cases we can see a clear fatha. So these are all jama taksir and it carries a clear fatha on the last letter. Why? Because these letters are sahih letters. They are not weak letters. Now, in this case, both the cases, one is male and the other one is female. But you see, it's a normal jumla failure with the fail and file, and then we have the maful bihi. Same case as before we discussed. This is the fail, this is the file, to the mir is the file, and we have maful bihi. Then in both the cases, the rijal and hunud are mansoob and they show their mansoob case clearly by a fatha. And you will say in your Arab as fath zahira. This is the sign, fath zahira. Now let's see the examples of jama taksir where you cannot put a clear fatha, but the letter, why cannot you put a clear fatha? Because the letter is from the weak letters, and due to grammatical rules it cannot carry a haraka over it. In this case, what do? We say it is fatha muqaddara, just like before we discussed. So watara an-nasa as-sukara. So here the haraka is also fatha, but we cannot write it. It's impossible because of this weak letter. So how do I know this has a fatha? An-nasa sukara, describing about the nas, since it's sharing the same harakas. Now the other example, wa ankihu al-ayama. Ankihu al-ayama, this is the file, the waw al-jama. Ankihu means it's the fail to marry, al-ayama, the slave girls, the orphans, and it has a weak letter, so it cannot carry a fatha. In this case, it should be fatha muqaddara, and both of them are a mansub case, and it's called fatha muqaddara. In your Arab, you will say fatha muqaddara. Why it is muqaddara? The reason to be muqaddara is because it has a weak letter alif. Now don't get confused with this name alif, since it is alif makhsura. The name of this letter is alif makhsura. So in other words, in English you can say it's a broken alif. It has only one count. It may look like a shape of the ya, a dotless ya, but its name is alif makhsura and it is alif. That's why in most of the grammar books you will see fatha muqaddara ala al-alif. Don't think that it is the same letter alif. No, this is totally wrong. The alif here in question is the alif maksura, which looks like a dotless ya. I mean, it resembles very much similar to ya, But here you don't find two dots. It's dotless ya actually. Mana min dhuhuriya at-ta'azzur. At-ta'azzur means it is impossible. So it's impossible to put haraka over this letter. So here we will see present tense with a sahih and a weak letter. So now present tense, when it comes with a tool of nasb preceded by a tool of nasb, what happens? What are the changes? First example, you will see a present tense with a tool of nasb. So I'm just concentrating on the tool of nasb and the present tense. So this is just the continuation of the sentence. So here what you see, a tool of nasb, and due to this the present tense shows its nasb case by a fatha. The only reason you will see a visible fatha on the last letter just because it is a sahih letter and not a weak letter. Now the second case is يسرني أن تسعى إلى المجد. So our present tense with the tool of nasb is an and yas'a. In this case we have a weak letter at the end, and this weak letter is called alif maqsura. And don't get confused when in the grammar book you come across al alifi. Alif is the name of this letter, which is very similar to the ya with dots, but this is actually without dots, and in English it is called broken alif, or in Arabic it is called alif maksura. And tas'a. So here also with the tool of nas, this present tense tas'a is also in the nas case. And how do I know if there is no fatha? This is a weak letter. The rule is we don't put haraka on the weak letter. Instead, the fatha is still there. We assume that there is a fatha, and in this case it is called fatha muqaddara. Where is the muqaddara fatha, assumed fatha? Alal alifi, on this weak letter. Why it is not shown? The reason why it is not shown, mana min dhuhuriha at-ta'azzur. It is impossible to write on the weak letter of fatha. Ta'azzur, impossible. It should not be written. Now we see the case of afalul khams in the present tense. Now if it is joined at the end, آخر الفعل مضارع ألف الاثنين. So there is so many cases in afalul khams with the alif al-isnain, that is this is the damir alif al-isnain, shows the duality. Lan yadriba. So what happens here? We will concentrate on this example for aliful isnain. This alif remains. Why? Because it's the damir, and the rule is damir never gets deleted. If you see the structure of yadriba, originally it is yadri, yadribani, ba alif and noon kasra. So what is happening here in this case is the noon here gets deleted, and the damir actually remains there to show how many people are doing the action, the two people. So this damir remains, only this extra noon gets deleted the moment you have a tool of nas before a present tense. So this happens when there is aliful isnain. Now what happens when there is this is for noon, for the plural jama mudhakkar tadribu. Now this waw is the waw al jama damir. Damir never gets deleted. The original word for tadribu is tadribu. تضربون. So this is the original fail afalul khamsa, where the noon gets deleted and the waw remains, and this waw is the damir waw al jama, showing how many people are doing the action, and male people are doing the action. Now one may ask, what is this fatha? It's just for your information. This fatha is actually an alif of protection that comes after this waw al jama, just to tell you that this waw is not the spelling of the verb, but it is a damir, showing you how many people are doing the action. So this is called alif of protection. You don't pronounce this alif. Now this is the second case. First is the aliful isnain, this is the noon for the. Now this is ya mukhatiba. So the original word here for mukhatiba is tadri. You know this, tadri, tadri bina. So this noon is extra, tadribi. What is happening? This noon is getting deleted and we have with the ya mukhatiba. Since ya mukhatiba is a damir, it never gets deleted. Lan tadribi. The moment the fail mudari receives a tool of nas, the noon, extra noon of the afalul khamsa gets deleted. So this is the third case. Now again, here they say all these from tadriba, tadribu. If you see tadriba, tadribu, tadribi, in all these cases, what is the similarity? The noon has been deleted. The noon has been deleted. They are all mansoob with lan, the tool of nasb. And what is the alama? What is the sign? How can you say that this fail mudari afalul khams is in nasb case? First one, the first reason you can give in your Arab is that it is preceded by a tool of nasb. The second is hasfan noon. This is your second reason in your Arab that there is the deletion of noon. Okay. Now alif, al waw and ya, they are all file. They are all damir. Showing you how many people are doing the work here, and they're all mabni ala sukun. So this is the most important point. All these damirs, that is the alif, the waw and the ya, they are all made mabni ala sukun. Though you will not see the sukun written over the waw, over the alif, over the ya, because alif, waw, they are all, these letters are all letters that they don't carry harakats. Fi mahall raf. Because why they are rough? Because the damirs are all in the rough marfu case. Because the alif, the waw and the ya, they are representing the doer, the file, and file is always in the rough case. So تعرف توضيح ذلك فيما يأتي. So now you know that all these damirs are always marfu, they don't get deleted, they're all marfu, only the extra noon, which is the part of the afalul khams, they get deleted as soon as they receive a tool of nas before it. Let's see this case of noon thaqila and khafifa. Whenever you see a fail mudari with a noon shadda and a noon sukoon here, know that this noon is noon tawqid. It can either be thaqila or khafifa, means heavy and light. And khafifa is known with the sukoon, it's light, and thaqila is known with the shadda. Now in this case you need to know your present tense. The present tense you see is tadhhab, and this noon is noon tawqid, the emphasis, noon of emphasis. Now, when does this happen? And just to give an emphasis in a word, noon sakila and khafifa comes in, and if you notice a tool of nas before the present tense. So how do you know it is tadhabanna is in mansub case? The first reason is the tool of nasb. The second reason is the fatha over the last letter of tadhab. So what you see is this ba with fatha, and it is made mabni on fatha. Even though you attach a noon thaqila at the end, which comes with fatha and shadda, the fatha with the ba with fatha is not changed. It is made mabni with fatha. So this is our second reason. If you see the second one, lan tadhaban. So this noon khafifa with sukoon remains there, but what you should see is the ba with the fatha. It is made mabni with fatha. It will not change. So the first reason is the tool of nasb. Second reason is the fatha on the last letter, tadhab. So they are made. This is the i'rab that you should be knowing. Mabni ala al-fath fi mahall nasb. Similarly, with the Noonun Niswa, what is Noon Niswa? It is the Damir. If you see this example, Tudrikna. So I'm not going through the other part of the sentence. Lan tudrikna al-majda illa bil-afafi. So I will just concentrate on this portion. So the first reason is this is tool of nas. Second reason, how do you know the tudrikna is in mansoob case? What about this noon? Is this fatha showing you the mansoob case? No. This noon is the damir noon niswa, damir for feminine plural. Please remember this. This noon niswa always comes for feminine plural and it is always with fatha. So there are a lot of noon with fatha, noon with kasra in the afalul khamsa. How will you know that this is not the noon from the afalul khamsa? The one and only recognition point for noon niswa is if you check the letter before it, it will always have a sukun. So our verb tudrik, here the last letter kaf is having a sukun. So this kaf with sukun tells that this noon fatha is the damir noon niswa. So please remember that. And in this case, the first reason we have is this tool of nasb. That's why we can say that tudrik is in nasb case, and we know the reason why sukun is there on the kaf. And with this sukun, we can say that this is made mabni. This is your Arab made mabni ala sukun fi mahall nasb. So the first thing that you can say is because of the tool of nas, tudrik is in the nas case. Second, we know this sukun, why the kaf is here with the sukun, because of the niswa. So all these are small details that you should know whenever you see the structure of the fail mudare with the tools, and also these small detailings do make a lot of difference in the fail mudare. Now, in the end of the lesson, we do some exercise, that is استعمال الكلمات الآتية في جمل مفيدة بحيث تكون منصوبة. You need to use all these words in a sentence. So what are the nouns? الحقل field, زهرة the flower, طلاب students, أقرأ حديقة, نهر, كتاب, بستان, قلم, فرس, غلمان, عذارى, عسى, هدى, يشرب, يرضى, يرتجي, and تسافر. Now here you will see from the nouns now comes the present tense with the sahih letter, with the weak letter here, with the weak letter ya, and this with the sahih letter. So you know the rules now, that whenever you use a present tense, how do you make it nasb? Use a tool of nasb. And if there is a weak letter, don't put the haraka, and if it's a sahih letter, it shows its mansoob case by a clear fatha. So now let's see the I have done some answers, and now let's see. زرع أبي الحقل قمحا. So al-haqla with the fatha means my father plowed the wheat field. Now qatafa al-waladu al-zahra. So this ta marbuta is with fatha because it's a simple noun. Inna tullaba ism inna. Al-jududa fil faslina. Tarakna al-akrata fil mal'abi. The plural of qura. رأيت البستان في الصباح. وضعت القلم الجديد في الحقيبة. So these are some sentences I did. Now let's see the next slide. The question number 2 is ضع في كل مكان من أماكن الخالية and the blank spaces في العبارات الآتية اسما مناسب منصوبا بالفتحة الظاهرة وضبطه بالشكل. Means you need to fill all these blank spaces with a mansoob noun showing a fatha zahira. So don't use any noun that don't show a zahira fatha. So we will use all the nouns with sahih letter at the end. Inna dash ya'tifun ala abnaihim. Ya'tifun means to show compassion towards his sons. So innal aba'a, our fathers, show compassion towards their sons. Alzam al-adba fa inna hadra aibun. So here adb is the literary work. أطاع المعلمك, so this meme is with fatha لأنه يهذبك يهذبك ويثقفك. احفظ لسانك عن التكلم في الناس. So I've used all these simple nouns here. احترم أمك لأنها ربتك. إن الرجل المسلم هو الذي يؤدي واجبه. ذاكر دروسك قبل أن تحضرها. من أطاع الشيطان أورده المهالك. Now أد واجبك فإنك بهذا تخدم وطنك. اعمل الخير ولو في غير أهله. كن شجاعا فإن الجبن لا يؤخر الأجل. أحسن عملك يرضى عنك الله. So these are all the nouns here. So basically you just need to use suitable mansub nouns here in order to suit the sentences, complete the meaning of the sentences. Let's see the next slide. These are the questions. Let's do the question here. في كم موضوع تكون الفتحة علامة على النصب? How many situations do you see the nasb case here? موضوع الفتحة هو ثلاثة. That is اسم مفرد in the normal nouns. جمع تكسير you will see فتحة ظاهرة and فعل مضارع with the sahih letters. Remember, with the sahih letters only you will see a visible فتحة ظاهرة. In this question, you need to give examples of all types of noun that you have learned. For example, اسم مفرد مذكر منصوب بالفتحة ظاهرة. Then مفرد مذكر منصوب with فتحة مقدرة. So one with ظاهرة, one with مقدرة. Then اسم مفرد مؤنث منصوب بالفتحة ظاهرة. Then the next should be اسم مفرد مؤنث منصوب بالفتحة مقدرة. Then all the four examples for Jama Taksir and with different nouns. So let's see the answers. رأيت الولد, شرب اللبن, أكل الموز, أحب الكتابة. So these are all normal nouns. رأيت الفتى, this is with مقدرة. رأيت كتابي, so this is also with a ya متكلم. And here a ba is with the فتحة مقدرة. يحب الله موسى. أحب الحقيبة. أكل التفاحة. رأيت الشجرة. قرأ المجلة. رأيت سلمى, this is with the مقدرة. رأيت الحدائق. مساجد. أبواب. أخذ مفاتيح. So these are all examples of Jama Taksir. So these are just random simple sentences to make you understand how these nouns are coming with Zahira and Muqaddara. Let's see. متى ينصب الفعل مضارع بالفتحة? When do you make a فعل مضارع منصوب بالفتحة? This is the question. Then مثل للفعل مضارع منصوب بمثالين. Means you need to give two different examples of فعل مضارع that is in منصوب case. بماذا ينصب فعل مضارع الذي اتصل به ألف الاثنين? When a فعل مضارع is added with ألف الاثنين, the ألف of duality, how do you make it منصوب? إذا اتصلت آخرية الفعل المضارع مسبوق بناصب نون توكيد. Now these are from the نون توكيد and ثقيلة and خفيفة ones. So now here they are asking that when the فعل مضارع is made mansub by a tool of nasb. Masbuk means it is preceded by a tool of nasb, be nasib. And this fail mudare at the end you see a noon tawqid, that is either noon saqila or noon khafifa. What is the rule? Last question, give example of fail mudare lazi ittasilat akhri at the end noon niswa. Now if you remember, now we come across when the fail mudare is added with noon niswa, the damir, the noon with the fatha. وَسَبَقَهُ نَاسِب, and it is preceded by a tool of nasb. What is the rule and what is the answer for this? Let's see the answers. Al-fi'l mudari is a dakhala alayhi nasib if it has a tool of nasb before it. وَلَمْ يَتَّصِلْ بِآخَرِهِ شَيْءٌ. So, and when it doesn't have anything at the end, then what happens? Then it shows its mansoob case by a visible haraka fatha. For example, lan ya'kula, lamma yadkhula. So, lamma is also a tool of nasb. So, and in this case, lam is a sahih letter. So, it will show its mansoob case by a fatha ghahira. Now let's see the next question that we read. ينصب الفعل المضارع الذي اتصلت بألف الاثنين in the مثنى case. What will you do when it has a tool of nasb before it? For example, if I take here لن يذهبان. So habani means there are, I'm talking about two people. Lan yazhabani, they will not go. They means these two people will not go. Now this is the muthanna noun and this is one of the afalul khamsa. So what happens when I put a tool of nas before a fi'l mudari and this is in musanna? So the first thing that you need to do is remove the noon. This noon is actually dropped or deleted. Why? Because it is an extra noon, doesn't have any work in the Arab. So this is the rule. بحذف النون, deletion of the noon. ولم يكون نصب بالفتح, and you don't show this particular afalul khamsa present tense with a fatha. It will only remain with this alif al-muthanna. Why? Because this is the damir alif muthanna. The damirs never get deleted, only the extra letter gets deleted or the weak letter gets deleted. So that is the rule here. Now let's see what is the rule or hukm for the fi'l mudari that is preceded by a tool of nasb when the present tense is with noon tawqid, that is the saqila and the khafifa. The rule is huwa mabni ala al-fath fi mahall nasb. So whenever you see noon khafifa or saqila, for example tadhhaban and tadhhabanna, you need to keep in mind the haraka. Tadhhaban. So this is ba with fatha and noon sukun. This is khafifa. The other one is tadhhabanna. So this is noon saqila with the shadda. So in both the cases you will see the ba is with fatha. So you need to keep check on the ba. So this is what you need to explain, that it is mabni ala al-fath fi mahall nasb when it is preceded by the tool of nasb, lan. Now, for example of fi'l mudari bi noon niswa is lan tudrikna. The same example here I have used, and this is the last letter with the sukoon, and this is just a damir, so it cannot be deleted. As I said, the damirs cannot be deleted. So just because this is the noon niswa and the sukoon is one point of recognition that this is the damir for feminine plural, that's why kaf is having a sukoon. And what is the rule hukm for noon niswa? It is mabni ala sukoon fi mahall nasb. So it is mabni on sukoon. This sukoon is mabni, it cannot be changed, always comes with this sukoon with noon niswa. With this we come to the end of the lesson. So this is the end of lesson number 9. My next video will be on replacement of fatha by kasra, ya, and the deletion of noons in the afalul khamsa. So till then, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.